The wind in Wyoming carried more than dust. That spring it carried trouble. It hissed through the valley like a living thing, lifting grit into the air and scouring every fence post, window pane, and heart in Red Bluff. Folks there were used to hard seasons, but this wind felt different, restless, warning. Eli Graves had learned long ago to listen when the land spoke. At 38, he was a man carved by sun and solitude. His ranch lay nestled in the foothills beneath the Bighorn Mountains, built on discipline, loss, and silence. 10 years a widower, Eli had stopped expecting much from life except work and weather. That morning, he rode his buckskin gelding, Dust Devil, down the town's crooked main street. The wooden signs creaked, paint peeling from the church steeple that pointed accusingly at the sky. He didn't come to town often, only when he had to. Flour, salt, a coil of rope. A man without family or friends didn't need much more. He tied his horse outside the general store, dusted off his hat, and stepped inside. The smell hit first: coffee beans, kerosene, old leather. Silas Croft, the postmaster and storekeeper, looked up from behind the counter. "Morning, Eli," he said. "Got something here for you." Official looking. Eli frowned. He never got letters. His life didn't leave room for paper talk. Silas handed him a long brown envelope sealed with the stamp of the Territorial Land Bank of Cheyenne. Eli tucked it into his coat without opening it. Bank business never brought good news. He was turning to leave when he saw her. Mara Finch, the new schoolteacher. She stood on the boardwalk outside, a stack of papers in her arms, her dark honey hair pinned against the wind. In a town of dust and gray, she looked like a living flame, calm, steady, out of place. Eli paused, one hand resting on the doorframe. He'd heard she came from Missouri, a place with rain and green fields. He'd meant to ignore her, same as everyone else. But something in her quiet resolve tugged at him, a reminder of who he'd been before silence settled in his bones. "Morning, Miss Finch," he said, his voice rough from disuse. She looked up, surprised, then smiled faintly. "Mr. Graves." Her voice was soft but sure. As she passed, the wind carried her scent lilac and ink into the store behind her. Eli shook his head, irritated at himself. He wasn't a man for noticing such things anymore. Outside, the wind kicked harder. He opened the letter. The paper was thick, the ink heavy. Final notice of amendment to territorial water rights. Parcel 3B, Bighorn County. Ownership of the Spring Creek water source is hereby registered jointly under Eli Graves and Mara L. Finch. Eli read it twice. Then again. Spring Creek, his lifeline, the water his father had claimed 30 years ago, now belonged to him and her. He looked up sharply. She was crossing the street, her books clutched tight. Unaware that her name had just been written beside his in ink that could ruin them both. "Miss Finch," he called, striding toward her. She turned, startled. "Yes." He handed her the letter. "You might want to see this." Her brows furrowed as she read, color draining from her face. "This can't be right," she whispered. "I don't own anything here. I'm just a teacher." "That's what I thought," Eli said, his tone flat. "But the paper says otherwise." Before she could reply, a shadow fell across them. Asa Crow, the valley's biggest cattleman, stood watching, a cigar clenched between yellowed teeth. Well, Crow drawled. "Looks like the schoolteacher's gone into business with our quiet rancher. Water's worth more than gold these days." Eli's jaw tightened. "Nothing funny about it." Crow smiled, slow and snake-like. "Everything in this valley concerns me: water, cattle, and people." His eyes lingered on Mara. The meaning in that look made Eli's blood rise. "You've had your say," Eli growled, stepping forward. "Now move along." Crow chuckled, dry as dust. "Careful, neighbor. You'll need friends soon enough." He flicked his cigar into the dirt and walked off toward the saloon. When he was gone, Mara exhaled shakily. "I don't understand any of this." "Then you'd best see it for yourself," Eli said. "Tomorrow. Sunrise. Spring Creek." She hesitated. "You think this was deliberate?" Eli's gaze drifted to the red horizon where the wind dragged grit into the dying light. "In a place like this," he said, "nothing happens by accident. The next morning at Spring Creek. Eli was already there when Mara arrived. The creek ran low, a silver ribbon through cracked earth, but it was life itself. He crouched by the water, the cold biting into his calloused hands. When she appeared, wrapped in a shawl, her boots dusty from the walk, she looked out of place but unafraid. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "Quiet," he said. "Quiet keeps cattle alive." Together, they traced the creek's course, marking stones and stakes his father had placed decades ago. Mara moved with sharp eyes and a lawyer's precision. Her father, she told him, had been one in St. Louis before debt took everything. Eli found himself speaking more than he had in years. By noon, the sun burned high, and they shared a canteen beneath a dying cottonwood. "You don't think this was an accident," she said quietly. "Crows behind it," Eli replied. "He's been swallowing land for years. This creek's all that's left between him and the whole valley. Using my name made it look clean," she said bitterly. He nodded. "Clever. And rotten. Then we fix it," she said. "We fight." He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just resolve, but something he'd almost forgotten existed: faith. "If you're willing to stand with me, Miss Finch," he said, "then we fight together." Her answer was simple. "Then I stand with you." The rest of the town whispered, "Of course." 2 riders seen at sunrise, the teacher and the rancher. In Red Bluff, rumor spread faster than prairie fire. Eli didn't care much about gossip, but the way they spoke her name burned in him. By the next afternoon, trouble arrived wearing a badge. Sheriff Bart Lusk and his hired hand, Jed Pike, rode up with smirks sharp as razors. "Afternoon, Graves," Lusk called. "Heard you and the schoolmarm are sharing more than water." Eli's hand twitched near his revolver. "Get off my land," he said. "Careful," Lusk sneered. "Council's calling a hearing. Folks say you're hoarding water that ain't yours anymore. Maybe the lady'll testify." When they finally rode off, Mara stepped out from the barn, pale but steady. "They're not just testing you," she said. "No," Eli answered. "They're testing us." That night, the wind turned cold. By dawn, a storm rolled down from the peaks, the kind that could flay the land raw. Caught miles from the ranch, Eli and Mara took shelter in an old miner's cabin as snow buried the world outside. Inside, the fire crackled weakly. Her cloak was soaked through, her hands trembling. "You'll freeze before morning," Eli said. "I'll manage," she whispered. Her fingers wouldn't work the clasp. "Let me," he said quietly. He freed the clasp, the fabric falling heavy to the floor. When a loose cord snagged and snapped, the sound hung sharp in the silence. They froze. Then she nodded, small and trembling. "It's all right." He handed her a blanket and turned away. "Sit by the fire. I'll keep it going." Through the long night, they spoke little, but the silence between them changed. By dawn, the storm had passed. They stepped outside into a world washed clean and gleaming under pale gold light. Mara looked at him, eyes bright against the snow. "We'll go to that hearing, Eli," she said. "And we'll win together." He nodded slowly. Together. The wind that rose then was no longer cold. It carried the scent of thaw, of something new beginning, not just in the land, but in them both.